Welcome back to Hike, Heal, and Hustle. This is our Mother's Day episode, Rooted and Rising, a Mother's Day rebirth. This is the first couple of episodes, so I'll try to remember to remind you how the episodes are laid out. We do hike, we talk about hike, we heal, and then we talk about hustling. Because this is a Mother's Day episode, I'm going to bring some things in about moms and me being a mother myself. I want to take you back to get into the episode in the segment of hiking. I'll talk about my journey into hiking or outdoor activities, physical things to do. I found clarity in nature. Hiking gave me the space to process, reflect, and rebuild because I was out in nature and I really enjoyed it. My first solo hike was in Atlanta, Cascade Springs Preserve. It was overcast that day. My girls were both on campus at their respective colleges, so I was temporarily empty nesting it. I kept saying I wanted to do it. It was on a Sunday. Like I said, it was overcast. I really want to get out there and do it. I was like, but what if it rains? I'm looking at the app and it was going to hold off for a while. I'm just doing it. I had already done a lot of research on local hikes, easier hikes, because I was new at this. I still am. It's been a couple of years, but I'm still a novice at this. I decided to go to Cascade Springs because I am a waterfall chaser. I chase waterfalls. I had Googled waterfalls near me and it listed Cascade Springs Preserve. I called my youngest daughter because her college is local. I'm doing this by myself. This is where I'm going to be. If you don't hear from me, this is the last you know where I was. I arrived there. It looked like it was just about to rain. It's a historical site and it has all of these learning things we can read about, which I love to look at. Ruins. I get in there and I'm looking at the trees and there's a creek. A creek follows it, most of it. And there's a hill that you go up. You can hear the water from the creek, the sound, the bubbling of the sound. Oh my God. It just was so peaceful. Then it started to rain a little bit. You could hear, there was a lot of trees. And at that time, it wasn't raining hard. It's like a little drizzle, but you can hear the rain fall and hit the leaves. You can hear the trees swaying and the rustling of the leaves. And there was animals and all of these wonderful sounds that just connects you with nature and gives you this space to just think and calm. It's just so incredibly relaxing. I'm going through this. I'm not really getting wet because of all the trees and it's not raining really hard, but it's like moisture in the air. But I continue going and I go up the hill, which was a bit, but I still loved it. Not knowing what to expect, and I'm just walking through. And of course, when you go outdoors, you think, oh, what if I see this? What if I see that? I didn't care. I just thought if I see it, I'll deal with it when I see it. So I continued through. It was such a wonderful experience. I was able to really think, because at the time, my life wasn't great. I was dealing with a lot of stuff back then. And going through that hike gave me an opportunity to really just sink into some silence because my mind is constantly rushing. It gave me an opportunity to dream about the goals that we're going to talk about later. It's just very soothing. It was very soothing for me. I think about the other things that I've started doing in my 40s. Hiking is something I started in my 40s. I turned 50 this year. The other thing that I started doing was races. At that time, I was doing only virtual races because we were coming out of the pandemic. And this was 2022. We were just coming out of the pandemic and a lot of the major races were not completely fully in person. I didn't want to do an in-person race because I have so many insecurities about running because I don't run. I'm a slow runner. I'm a slow walker. I'm a slow. I don't like a lot of people around me. When I am out in nature, whether I'm doing a virtual race or in-person race, I enjoy that space that nature gives me, that space to process, reflect, and rebuild. And if I'm doing a race, 2025, my vision board says I want to do 12 in-person races because I have struggled to do an in-person race. I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do in-person races, 12, which is one a month. And right now, yesterday, I did my 5th. This is the 5th month. I'm on track to finish 12. It rained in the Atlanta area. I got soaked from head to toe. What's funny is I was not planning to run that race that day. Literally being at the site, I had decided I wasn't going to run the race. That's going to be a topic for another day. We're talking about rebirth. It's a Mother's Day. And how these things connect to my kids. My youngest daughter is what really got me into wanting to even run. We were in a really low spot in our lives. And my daughter, she was in the 5th grade. She's She graduated college last year. So this is how long this has been weighing on my mind. She was in the 5th grade and she was living with my sister at the time because I had lost my job. And we were coming back to Atlanta from South Carolina because I had gotten a job. And I brought the girls with me to start school. And they stayed with my sister and I slept in my car. I would go see the girls every day. My sister's apartment had a fitness center and she would go in there in 5th grade and she would just get on that treadmill and she would run. I knew that why, there was a lot going on. Our life was in chaos and she just needed to focus on something that she could control. And running was that. She lost weight. She wasn't a fat child, but she ended up losing some weight that year because she would get on that treadmill. And I would watch her. I'm going to the gym with her. She said, I wish I had someone to run with me. I wanted to be that. I thought she wanted to be a runner and wanted a running partner. I wanted to be that for her. So I immediately started looking for ways to get into that. The caveat to that is this. I wasn't the person she was talking about because I'm her mother. From then to now, I would say, hey, let's do this run together. And I remind her about that day. And she was like, okay. And she never does, which is fine. It wasn't about me. I was just trying to be there for my child, but she was talking about somebody else. But it did give me an opportunity to reflect on where I was physically. I was a lot smaller back then, but not healthy. You can go back and listen to my old episodes on the other side of 45. I'll discuss my health issues back then. Maybe one day I'll discuss some on this, but just stay on topic under the pillar of hiking. Hiking is just your physical activity, whatever you choose to do. It's just physical activity. On this podcast is doing things outdoors to get more African American people outside and getting them to use the space in a way that makes them feel comfortable, but to also look at alternative ways to being active and utilizing the great free space of outdoors. I loved outdoors even as a kid. We were outside all the time. I'm Gen X. They always threw us outside. The home that I grew up in, there was woods in the back. And at my grandmother's house, and we were, as kids, I remember being back there and hoping that I saw something and also hoping that I didn't, but just in my mind, I'd be prepared. It was like an adventure. I've always had this great relationship with the outdoors, but then as life happened and as adulthood happened, I lost that connection. I would still do things outside, but I didn't have the connection that I did as a child. I reintroduced that in a way in about 2022, maybe 2021, of using the outdoor space to reconnect with nature and to be grounded and to get stronger. That's what I've been doing. Hiking and going out and doing those hard things. It's a metaphor for my life, especially when I think about that first hike. I've done several, going up that hill and making it up that hill. To me, that's a metaphor for my life. I have had so many hills to climb. And while you're on the hill, you think you're never going to make it. But then you do, and you're like, I can't believe I did this. I felt that way yesterday when it was raining. It was 4 miles. I did 4 miles. Yesterday was hard for me because it was raining, and I do have an issue with being wet. But I made it through. My speed was abysmal, but I did it. It was this feeling of accomplishment. I had the feeling of I'm completing this because I said I would. I said I was going to do 12 races and I'm on track. This is something we're going to be doing on this podcast. We're going to take time to reflect. And I will be putting this on my Instagram. If you're listening, I would love for you to go to Instagram and comment. I'll also have this on YouTube. You can comment on Instagram or YouTube. You can send me a direct message if you don't want people to see. This is how we're going to connect. We'll have these mini reflections for you, the listening audience. What's one area of your life that needs fresh air and forward moving? Just think about that. I can tell you what mine is. I'm my finances, and that's part of the hustle, honey. We're going to get to that, though. Now we're going to move into the pillar of healing, and we want to honor mothers. So this segment, it's Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. All who are mothers, those of you who aren't so happy this is not a great time for you for one reason or another. My condolences go. And whatever reason why Mother's Day is not a joyous time for you, because it's not for everybody. But for those of us who can take that opportunity to celebrate and honor the women who shaped us. And even if they're no longer with you, if you have someone, a woman in your life, or had someone, a woman in your life, maybe take this as an opportunity to honor them by thinking about how they shaped you. It could have been your mother, your auntie, your grandmother, a cousin, a community elder, just someone that left an imprint on your life. But not all of those lessons serve us forever. They may have taught us this, but it may not still serve us. Some of us, me included, are breaking cycles of silence, overfunctioning, and emotional suppression. When we talk about healing the inner child and setting boundaries and mothering ourselves in ways we never experienced, some of us are doing that. What that looks like is to affirm the importance of healing from people pleasing, from burnout, and for generational or intergenerational trauma. Another thing I would love for you guys to think about, remothering yourselves. I know you're like, remothering me? Yes, remother yourself includes conscious nurturing and caring for yourself emotionally and physically. Just like a mother would care for her child. So it's like remothering you. It's self-directed. If you are a mother and you know how you want to care for the emotional, physical needs of your child, that's doing it for you, taking care of you. And this could involve things like self-compassion, prioritizing self-care, and just attending to your basic needs like sleeping and nutrition. Because I know a lot of women who don't get enough sleep. Are you prioritizing yourself? Are you doing self-compassion? Are you prioritizing self-care? Are you attending to your basic needs like sleep and nutrition? What does that also look like? That looks like speaking kindly to yourself. Practicing self-compassion is acknowledging your feelings and needs without judgment. You offer yourself the same kindness and understanding that you would offer to a friend. You know how sometimes we treat other people better than we treat ourselves? We need to stop. Physically, that looks like prioritizing sleep, eating nutrient-dense foods, and taking care of your home, making sure that your home is safe and clean and functional, and creating a space that promotes comfort and relaxation. I call that a soft place to fall. That when you walk through that door, your home is a soft place to fall. You can just let the day go and you just fall and do whatever. This also looks like making time for self-care activities, things that bring you joy, relaxation, such as reading, taking a bath, or spending time in nature. Of course, I'm always throwing nature. I would love to hear your responses to these questions. What did the women who raised you, or the women who were instrumental in your life, teach you, and what do you choose to keep or release? I had a lot of great women in my life. Even though my mother and I are what they now say no contact, we've been that way since 2013. That was not the language that we used back then. There were lots of great things that she taught me. There are things also that I have released. My grandmother, my aunts, cousins, even my sisters, and community women in the community. So I've been very fortunate to have very positive women in one way or another in my life. One of the things that I choose to keep is something that my mother taught. Is my mother wasn't afraid to get silly. When we were kids, she would meet us where we were as kids. We had this doll my uncle had made for me and my sibling. It was a handcrafted doll, and it was a Raggedy Ann doll. It was soft, and we were kids. We were rough, and sometimes the arm would come off, and we would take the arm to my mother to get her sewing kit, and she was like, she called herself a doctor. I'm going to stitch her up. So the doll was in the hospital, and I love that she was able to take back and step back from being serious all the time to just be in that moment for her children. So that's something that I will keep to. I try to remember to loosen up sometimes. I don't always have to be serious. There are times when it's hard for me to be silly and just be in the moment. Some of the things that I will release is being really rigid and strict and trying to pretend that everything is this picture perfect that you want people to believe. I don't do that. I have podcasts that talk about how not picture perfect my life is now or never has been, but that's something that she really stressed. Don't tell my business, and just this facade, that we had to keep, that everything was great when it really wasn't. And not even that we had to keep the facade, that she didn't address the things that was not great. She wasn't willing to pivot, and she wasn't willing to adjust when she knew things weren't working for us. And that's something that I released. If things didn't work for my girls, I pivoted, I adjusted, I let them have a say in how I was rearing them. Let's move on to our third pillar, hustle. We're going to rewriting the blueprint. So let's talk about the hustle. When I talk about hustle culture, we're talking about intentional hustle, purpose driven, ambitious. So Black women financial wellness is a form of resistance and freedom. With each, when we talk about the dreams we put on hold and how to reclaim them on our terms. And especially when we become mothers, sometimes we have to put those dreams on hold because we're raising a family and our priorities have shifted. I want to give you 3 hustle tips. Number 1, revisit an old passion with a new mindset. That's exactly what I did with this podcast. I had the other side of 45 from 2021 to 2024. And 2024, I knew I didn't want to continue to do the same thing, and I wasn't sure what direction I wanted to go to. So I revisited this passion with a new mindset, hence High Heel Hustle. Number 2, set a financial intention for the next 30 days. We talked about this earlier, and I said it was coming back. That's an area of my life that needs some fresh air and rebirth. For the next 30 days, I'm going to set a financial intention, and hopefully in 31 days or beyond, whatever, I'm joking, is I'll be able to share what that financial intention is and how it's going. But that's definitely a tip that you can do, to just set the financial intention for the next 30 days. And if you have one and you want to share, I would love to hear about it. Again, through comments on either platform, YouTube or Instagram. The third tip is ask yourself, who am I when I am not performing? Okay, this question encourages you to question your core sense of self and recognize that your identity is shaped by various aspects of life, including relationships and hobbies and being a parent. But who are you when you're not performing? Ultimately, it invites a more introspective approach to understanding yourself and allowing for a more authentic expression of who you truly are. I want to share this quote with you. This isn't about hustle for hustle's sake. It's about aligning your grind with your growth. Don't you love that? I love it. I think about the vision behind the hustle part of this podcast. I had to include the hustle because I raised my kids in survival mode, and there were a lot of things financially that I did not focus on. And I wanted to make sure that now in this part of my life that I include that, despite where I am in life, that part, the hustle part, the being ambitious and intentional, is in the forefront. Hence the 30 days of financial intention. So when I thought about revamping this, and it could have just been hike and heel, because I am a sound healer in training. But the hustle is something that I think that we as Black people have got to focus on. I want my kids to have generational wealth. I know nothing's going to be passed down to me. And if anything gets passed down, it's going to have to start with me, from my kids. There's no inheritance coming to them from their grandparents. The grandparents on the other side have both passed away, and I'm not expecting any inheritance from my grandmother or my mother. My mother and I don't even talk. So, if she had a lollipop, she wouldn't leave that to me. So if I want those things, I have to start and make sure that my kids are set up. But I also have to make sure that my kids know that they need to make sure that their financial needs are met through whatever means they choose. So I talk to them about investing and budgeting, all these things, so that they have a good financial well-being. That's not something that that you just automatically know. Even wealthy children have to learn how to navigate with their finances, even though they have a lot, they could end up broke. And financial wellness matters now more than ever for Black people because of our current climate. We have to make sure that we're able to take care of ourselves with or without a spouse. And I want to emphasize intentional hustle, but I don't want you to think that you need to go until you're burned out. So we're not burning out. We're not hustling with 12 different jobs and not getting enough rest. Notice how we talked about balance and everything. That's what the hustle is about. It's being intentional, is knowing how to make your money work for you. And in this day, as on Mother's Day, we want to talk about those of us with or without mothers, but because it's Mother's Day, mothers in particular, let's talk about those dreams that you've deferred and whether or not it's time to dust them off and reflect on those. And maybe it's time to start that business. Maybe it's time to go back to school. Maybe it's time to get that certification. Maybe it's time to start that garden. Me, start the garden. So I'm going to share 3 quick tips that you can take to reimagine what success looks like. Number 1, know your numbers, budgeting. Know that. Know what's coming in. Know how much is going out. Stick to create a budget. I've created one. I keep our finances for the household, me and my girls, on the refrigerator. They know what's going out when it turns to the household. This is how much this bill was. This is how much that bill was. So they can have a realistic view of what it's like to live on your own. When I say know your numbers, know how much you got coming in, going out, know what's in your 401k, your IRA, all the things. Know what your numbers are. Next is emergency fund or savings. The rule of thumb changes from time to time. Some people say have 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. I say have enough to take care of yourself in the event you don't have a job, and be realistic. If it takes you 4 months before you can get a job, make sure you have 5 months worth of emergency / savings, because we never know. In our economy here in the United States, layoffs are a thing. They've always been a thing. It's ridiculous how many times I've laid. And what I've learned over the last few years is a layoff can happen. You can go into work one day, and by the end of that day, you don't have a job. And that's literally what has happened to me. So have an emergency fund for those things. I don't want it to happen to you, but live your life as if it can. And then you want to invest wisely. In this day and age, this is a benefit I didn't have growing up. And when I was raising my kids, we didn't have the benefit of having the internet give us as much information. We didn't have influencers when I was raising my kids. I couldn't go to Earn Your Leisure. They didn't exist. My Rich BFF. There are so many reputable financial influencers who give you a glimpse of how you can invest your money, and then do more research. Go to the library and learn about investors. You can take a course for free. You can start a course and pay an expert to teach you. There are so many ways to learn how to invest. So make sure you're investing wisely. Those are the 3 tips. You want to know your numbers, meaning your budget. You want to have an emergency fund or savings, and you want to invest wisely. Those are our 3 hustle tips for today. To close out this segment, this isn't about hustle for hustle's sake. It's about aligning your grind with your growth. There are a few things I'm going to leave you with as I wrap up this podcast episode. Reflect on what rebirth means to you. I would also like for you to, of course, follow me on all my social media and subscribe and leave a review. Sign up for my newsletter. It's going to be some inspiration, some resources, and community. Remember this, you are not starting over. You are starting rooted. You are not behind, sis. You are becoming. Until next time, keep hiking, keep healing, and never stop hustling on your terms.